students are included.
How Bill and I got the job of being the MC here. WNBF, of course, was on 70 years, WKOP just over 50 years, but more importantly, our ages. Bill was a personal friend of Marconi, and I knew David Sarnoff.
Hank, I do the funny stuff on here. The funny stuff was, just briefly, we just returned from hosting a group to Paris and London. We were visiting the Eiffel Tower in Paris, and a French gentleman came up to me and said, Bill, yes, Bill Pocket, yes, I've heard so much about the Marconi Tower. Could you tell me more about, and he was standing near the Eiffel Tower. I just threw that in there. No better way to begin our festivities than our greeting and trusting words from our very own mayor, Mayor Richard Bucci, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Bill. Welcome, everyone. Individuals here I know are railroad buffs, are radio and TV buffs, and very much aware of the connection between these two great industries and the role that Binghamton and Scranton and this particular tower played in the development of wireless communication and the pioneering experiments that took place right here in Binghamton. I think many of you are from this area certainly know, but maybe the visitors don't, that we're very proud of the fact that we have been a pioneer here in the southern tier of New York in regards to computer technology. We've been a pioneer in regards to aircraft simulation. The first aircraft simulators were developed right here in Binghamton. So we've always been proud of the key role we've played in computers and aircraft in the space program. But we also now know that we played a pioneering role in the development and the expansion of the concept of wireless communication, and that Binghamton played a prominent role in that development. And so for all of us, regardless of what our interest is, whether it's in railroads or in radio or television, we know that in order to appreciate the present and have an understanding of where we're going in the future, we have to celebrate, recognize, and understand our past. And that's what today is all about. There are some very significant events that took place here that should really be remembered, celebrated, and honored. And we're very pleased to have such a wonderful turnout of individuals from throughout the Northeast to come here today for this very celebration. Welcome. I hope you enjoyed today's festivities and the rest of the weekend. I know that there's a lot of planning that's gone into this, and I'm sure you'll find it interesting, informative, and most importantly, entertaining. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Ritchie, thank you. Our next speaker always has his finger on the spotlight and dedication of himself and to the county, Broome County Executive Jeffrey Cram, always interested in our community and in our county. Jeff.
Thank you, Bill, and good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I would like to echo the mayor's welcome to our community for those of you from out of town. And it was interesting that it was about 6 months ago, it was earlier this year that we were driving by here with my 7-year-old son, and he actually pointed up to the Marconi Tower and said, "Dad, what's that?" And I had to say, "I don't know." So thanks to the efforts of Scott Phillips and all the people that are involved in this project, I soon learned what the Marconi Tower was and how important it was to the development of the wireless transmission and what Binghamton and what a role that Binghamton played in the development of that engineering technology. And so now, and since then, and since I got invited, which was a couple months ago, and got all the background information on the Marconi Tower, my son in 2nd grade is now the class expert on the Marconi Tower. And in fact, he was trying to get his class down here today, but it didn't quite work out because they didn't have school today. But anyways, I'm here today to present a proclamation, and I'd like to present this to Scott Phillips. It's a Broome County proclamation, and it's very short, so I'll read it. It's whereas the people of Broome County hereby commemorate the Binghamton Marconi Transmitting Tower for its 85 years of service as a historical landmark at the Lackawanna train station and as a constant reminder of the importance of rail service to our community. And whereas the Marconi Tower stands more than 97 feet tall, quietly awaiting the telegraphic transmissions that once filled the air as wireless signals were sent to trains traveling from Scranton, Pennsylvania to Binghamton, New York. And whereas this 150th anniversary year of the New York and Erie railroads traveling into Broome County is an appropriate time to honor the Marconi Tower as a symbol of efficient rail service and a reminder of the historical evolution of communications. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Jeffrey P. Cram, Broome County Executive, do hereby proclaim this day, October 9th, 1998, to be Binghamton Marconi Transmitting Tower Day in the County of Broome, State of New York, honoring Mr. Marconi for selecting Broome County to be one of only 3 sites in the northeastern United States with a tower capable of transmitting messages to moving trains along the Lackawanna Railroad tracks. And I'd like to present this to Scott Phillips, who's done an outstanding job in making us all aware of the history of this Marconi Tower. Scott?
Thank you, Jeff. You know what you said earlier about the history of the Marconi Tower. When I first came to Binghamton in the late 40s, the Arlington Hotel was right over here in the corner. Right behind where you are now was the Railroad YMCA with bowling alleys and a nice restaurant. And when I first arrived here in town, I met Ralph Carroll. And I said to Ralph Carroll the very same thing you said. What's that? And he proceeded to tell me the history of the Marconi Tower. Speaking of history, no one can do it better than Gerald Smith, that leading into the historical background, the Historical Society. Gerald Smith, welcome him, please. Thank you.
85 years ago, this area of Binghamton was a center of business and transportation, with hotels, factories, and trains. It made Binghamton a hub of activity throughout the Northeast, and it also made it an attractive area for an Italian inventor named Guglielmo Marconi to try something new. He wanted to take his concept of wireless communication, what we later called radio, and use it to transmit information to moving trains. He brought to the city an engineer named David Sarnoff to build 2 towers, one of which still stands on this site. He made other towers in Scranton, and in 1913, the first successful transmission to moving trains was made. It was an experiment which has since revolutionized how our society operates. Today's world of remotes for TVs, cellular phones, and other devices is based on those experiments. This little-noted experiment in radio history was largely forgotten until 30 years ago, when local columnist Tom Cowley wrote about these 2 giants of communication, Marconi and Sarnoff, and the history of this tower that still stands. But the residents of our community paid little note to his words. As historian for Binghamton, I had the pleasure of using Tom Cawley's work and writing an article about this tower because I felt that we as a city and as a community needed to know about this tower. Even more, I hoped we could do something to protect the tower and let everyone know how important it is. We as a community should be proud that we have people like Scott Phillips, because he did read the article and he didn't just put it down, he did something. He decided we needed to know more about the tower, and he wanted to make sure that there would be a marker to note the importance this tower has in the communication history of our country. We are gathered here today to rededicate the tower. On this site, 150 years ago, the first train pulled into Binghamton and changed our history of transportation. In 1913, the site again became a first, and that we're lucky, either through neglect, luck, or fortitude, we have saved a piece of that event, the Marconi Tower. Let us remember what it represents and hope that it stands long enough to again see this area become a center of activity. Thank you.
Jerry, thank you, Gerald. The romance of communication, the romance of history, and the romance of railroading. It's ever thus. And to give us more of an insight, we have the president of the National Railway Society, John Goodnow, to share some thoughts with us today.
Thank you, Bill. Susquehanna Valley chapter of the National Railway Historical Society is pleased to take part today in this dedication. On the 85th anniversary since the construction of this tower, we are reminded of several pioneers in communications. First, we had Samuel F.B. Morse, who perfected the first widely used telegraph system and lent his name to the code which was used for many years, starting back in the 1840s. As first rails were being brought into Broome County, the telegraph was right behind. Scores of miles of telegraph lines were built into our region under the supervision of Mr. Ezra Cornell, who, by the way, later lent his name to that famed institution at Ithaca, New York. In the early 1900s, Marconi was testing his system of wireless telegraphy, and the Lackawanna Railroad was among the very first to act as a proving ground for the novel equipment back in 1913. The coming of the railroad and the beginning of long-distance telegraphy using coded messages ushered in a way of life that would last nearly 100 years. By the 1920s, messages could be sent over the air by voice as well as in code form. And during the time Marconi and his trusted employee David Sarnoff were perfecting the wireless equipment, places like Binghamton were appearing as major railroad stops on the map. This year, lest we forget, marks another anniversary, the 150th year since the first official trains arrived here in Binghamton. It was on a cold, snowy night just after Christmas, 1848, that two specials of the New York and Erie Railroad came into the new Binghamton station. Back then, the rail depot was a small cluster of board and batten buildings just a few hundred feet behind where we now stand. The trains were greeted amid the booming of cannon, a few renditions of patriotic music by a local band, and the cheers of local residents. With the railroad came passenger, freight, mail, and express services, which connected Binghamton and environs with places hundreds of miles away, providing an all-weather means of travel. In the late 1960s, society seemed to forget the value of some of those rail services, for the mail trains were suspended, and finally, early in January of 1970, all passenger service stopped. It has not been the same since. Maybe the current studies we hear about will lead to the return of rail passenger service here. In any event, it's long overdue. No, we're not likely to be using the wireless telegraph again. Science and technology now have given us things like satellite transmitters, car telephones, computers, fax machines, and related equipment. But landmarks like this tower serve as reminders and monuments in their own unique way to those who made it possible for us to enjoy the conveniences we have here in the 90s, and it is fitting that we dedicate this marker here today. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Just for a moment, think what it would have been like without the internet, email, cell phones, beepers, television, radio, wireless recordings, wireless communication. It would be what they call quiet. Quiet! Anyway, again, the romance of the railroading. I grew up in central New York and knew of all of the romance. My dad worked for a while on the railroad there in central New York. Erie Lackawanna Historical Society, Schuyler Larrabee, to chat with us a little bit here. Schuyler.
Returning to my hometown, the Erie Lackawanna Historical Society is here for a convention this weekend. We're meeting at the Holiday Inn Arena. We are dedicated to the memory of the Erie, the Lackawanna, and the Erie Lackawanna successor road. These are really very significant railroads. The Erie, of course, the first one here in Binghamton, and at the time of its completion, the longest railroad in the world, one of the first major corporations in American financial history. The Lackawanna touted itself as the most highly developed railroad mile for mile in the country, and it certainly lived up to that claim. It's no surprise that the Lackawanna would be a groundbreaking railroad in the use of wireless communication to its railroad, and it is also no surprise that they they would use such well-known professionals in the field as Marconi and David Sarnoff. Wish I could fix things that easily. We're pleased to be able to be here at the time that this dedication of the plaque for the Marconi Tower is happening.
Must be they're practicing their transmission of the thing.
So in any case, we're very pleased to be able to be here at the time that the tower is being commemorated, and we heartily second Scott Phillips' plaque. Thank you very much.
Well, that's how they'll remember you. I don't know. Okay. Of course, here's our mentor, our guiding light here, the program director for this very auspicious event. Scotty Phillips, come up and share some words with us.
Thank you very much. Well, this has been 2.5 years since I first started, and to a lot of people here that are sitting or standing, you know that I've met with a lot of you. I've been sometimes calling late at night, sometimes pestering people during the work hours, trying to get information on the Marconi Tower. And a lot has been said already. I'm not going to go back and say, this is how it happened, this is what we did. Before I get off this dedication, I will tell you, down by the blue curtains that are on the table is all the information. It has the itinerary, has who is here today, and I would have everybody stop down there and pick up all the information at those tables. It's the one that has the Marconi information onto it. Very quickly, this particular tower right here is the last remaining Marconi Tower. The one that used to be over here is on the, if you look over to your left, was the about 30 to 35 feet away was the second Marconi Tower, and they were joined together by 4 antenna wires, and they used the system for about 1 year, and then later down the road they decided they just couldn't not use it anymore. It had no presence, and the new wireless telegraphy came in, so from there everything else is history. The towers have been taken down both in Scranton and in Binghamton. This is the last remaining one. It was supposed to have been taken down, and for some reason it never did. So today we're going to be dedicating this. My challenge would be right now is I worked so closely with the city of Binghamton and Broome County in trying to get this project going, and it's finally come its due. My challenge is for other individuals today and tomorrow, small business people, small companies, is to do something for the city, do something for Broome County. I wanted to do something all my life. I've been born and raised in Binghamton, New York, so this is my due. But I offer to each and every one in your community is to, beautiful, is, you know, everybody says, listen, the city doesn't do this, Broome County doesn't do that, and so on and so forth. I think it's time that we do something for our cities, something for our county, something for our state. If we don't do it, no one else is going to. I think all of us are, know that what's going on. We just got to make it a better world for everybody. So, as a special guest, I'm going to sign off here for a moment, but I'd like to introduce a very special guest. Jim Stack is all the way from Endicott, New York, and so far to go. But what you don't know, he is a great-grandson of Richard Stack, who was the conductor who originally took the very first message. And I was thrilled when Jim called me and said, would you like to have me come down to this? I said, you bet. So at this point, I'd like to introduce Jim?
I certainly wasn't expecting to speak, but thank you very much. I've enjoyed this day. I did bring some memorabilia about my great-grandfather, which you're welcome to look at. He was a bit of a poet in addition to being a conductor for 40 years. I thank you and thank everyone here.
Before we end this dedication up here on this platform, it's starting to rain, so we're going to speed it up here just a little bit. I'd like to thank everybody who's worked with me on the Binghamton Marconi Tower project. Gerald Smith, Bob Aronimus, Jim Bryden, Hank Summers, Steve Jensen, I know he's around here somewhere, Bill Parker, John Goodenow, Jack Menarche, David Frost, Bill Valke, my daughter Trinja Phillips, and my wife Susan Phillips, and of course to my two boys who have been most understanding, one of which is shooting video right now of watching Dad go crazy. So just I'd like to turn this back over to Bill. Oh, Hank has something.
Really, in the both the railroad hobby business and in radio, a lot of people over the years come up to us with harebrained schemes and ideas. They're going to do this, they're going to do that, and very few things come to fruition. It was out of his own pocket. It was out of his own hard work that this has come about. I think we all should applaud Scott Phillips.
Okay, what's on the agenda now for the communication between the mayors here? Okay, would you also take care of that? We're going to dedicate the plaque.
Everybody come right down. I guess, you know.
Just as a quick note, I think, as we said, the great thing about this plaque and Scott's work is that this will give us the opportunity to continue to remember and celebrate the past as we look forward to the future of rail transportation. As you know very, very well, Norfolk Southern is going to be taking over this aspect of the Conrail line, and many of us in this community have had discussions with them about the possibility of reestablishing passenger rail service here. And they're very willing to do that, but they wanted to see some evidence of the fact that there is a climate and support in this community to make that a viable operation for them. And graciously, our state legislators and the governor have put together the money to underwrite that study, which is a significant event in reestablishing passenger service here. So hopefully very shortly we'll be back here again to celebrate another milestone in this community in the long and rich history of rail passenger service as well as railroading throughout the southern tier. And this helps us remember and celebrate the long and rich past we've had. So with that,
Mayor Bucci and Scott, would you please shake hands again for me for one shot?
like
Thank you very much.
East-West Railroad in Utah there.
What we have next, in the caboose right down behind us here, we have radio amateur operators all set to go with Mayor Richard Bucci to talk to Mayor James Connors down in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And what you need to know was this was supposed to have been done in 1913. It was in the papers, and what had happened was it never happened. So we thought, what a neat idea to have it actually take place after all these years. So Mayor is going to go down in the caboose. And we're going to do some transmission. You all guys all sit down there? Okay, here we go.
Okay, how about now? Okay, we have the mayor on, and we'll let him go ahead and speak to yours. QSL? Okay, Walter?
Yes, Mayor, I am. Over.
Try it again.
Mayor, I can hear you. Over.
He's a good learner, isn't he?
We're getting feedback again on the bill, signal sharply.
Try it not too close, just about 6 inches away.
Mayor Connors, this is Mayor Bucci. I read you over.
Mayor, how are you up there in Binghamton? I'm only telling a small fib when I say the sun is shining down here.
Well, Mayor, you got the better part of the day because unfortunately it's just about to rain up here as it has over the last couple days over.
I must confess it's raining here too, Mayor.
Very good. It is indeed a pleasure to talk to you. And as you know, we're celebrating a historic conversation that was supposed to take place 85 years ago and never did at the appropriate time, but did a couple days later. But we have a large contingent here that's celebrating with us, and we're very pleased that you took the opportunity to join us for this very special occasion in Binghamton.
And so I just want to congratulate you on this wonderful day and the people of Binghamton also.
Thank you very much, Mayor. It was a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm University of Scranton graduate school, so I've got some roots in Scranton as well.
Mayor, I went through your grades, you had all A's.
Good man. Thank you.
Does he know you're a Republican?
Well, thank you, Mayor. It was a pleasure to talk to you, and again, thank you for participating in this very special day for us.
Mayor, God bless you and your city. You're doing such a wonderful job here on all of the development of this historic building. The Lackawanna Station, the hotel has been renovated, and I know you have the beautiful stadium and everything that's going on there. We're just so proud of you, and we want you to come back down here. I'm going to give you an honorary degree when you come back.
Thank you very much, Mayor. It's a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you. Okay, very good.
Just stay right there. W2CSG. This is W2MTA. Okay, Walter, I think this is just about it. So from our standpoint, we can shut down. QSL?
QSL, Bill, went great at the finals, but only went great. So somebody stays up there and have a nice day. K3 CSG clear.
Thank you very much for participating and putting all your time into it. We'll see that we'll be in contact with you later on. So this is W2MTA, 2 Marconi Tower antennas. Marconi Tower antennas saying 7-3.
Sound like 2 politicians
Absolutely, yeah. Very good, Bill. Very good.
Oh, it worked out very well. I thought, good.